ashes melted back to life. Done my time and served my sentence. Dress me up and watch me die. If it feels good, tastes good, it must be mine. Dynasty decapitated, you just might see a ghost tonight. And if you don't know now, you know. I'm taking back the crown. I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it. Sometimes we fight. Oh yeah, the crown.
All right, that music can mean only one thing. It means I have been summoned back here. So we are back with hell of a show and getting ready to start this thing. Let me make sure everything is set up on my end. Looks like everything's good over here. We're going to go ahead and introduce our guest here very shortly. Let's get some shares out there and make sure that we have some other people watching this as well. We're going to have some fun on this bad boy. Halloween may be over, but we are coming in hot tonight. And let's see. Lost Hope Entertainment. Tim Ingram is here. What's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. And apparently you can see and hear me, so that must mean that. So sorry about your look on that one, but I got to be up here for a little while. But I can't be the only pretty face up here right now. We're going to go ahead and introduce my guest here in just a moment. Now, first of all, I got to say, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there right now. There is another holiday in between Halloween and that one coming up with the fat man with the red and white suit and all that kind of stuff and everything. So for those that don't believe that, we're going to prove that tonight, because we're not done with the horror element. Oh no, we're pushing this thing full tilt boogie, and we're going to have some fun with this tonight. So let me introduce our guest up here tonight. This is Brandon with Dismay Comics.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What's going on, Brandon? Appreciate you being here. Let's see, so everything is set up. Let me go ahead and get you to go ahead and let everybody know who you are, what you do, what you're bringing to the table tonight.
Yeah, so I'm Brandon Ingram. My comic brand, I'm a comic creator. My comic brand is Dismay Comics, and I currently am making some horror anthology stuff. I got some horror anthologies on Kickstarter now for Dismay Avenue issues 1 and 2. They're huge, giant-sized horror stuff that, if you like horror anthologies, you'll really like. If you like the Twilight Zone, because that's a huge influence for me, is the Twilight Zone when it comes to writing these short horrors. That's a big influence. And also, I should mention, there's a lot of people that have read at least issue 1, and some people who don't even like horror have said, I really like that story. So if you like horror, you'll like it. If you don't like horror, you'll like it. So,
we're definitely going to be discussing more in depth on that as well. We're going to show some art. We're going to talk about this and kind of get to know what's going on with this. I'm going to tell you right now, Tim, Lost Hope Entertainment, just go ahead. You're going to hate me right now, because you're going to love what he's got. And you're going to be going ahead and jumping on board with this Kickstarter. I can tell you right now, it's going to happen. I know your likes and dislikes, and this is one of your likes. So nanner. And yeah, he said, definitely curious. Absolutely. More so than you know. So here's the thing with this. We're going to show some of the artwork while I'm talking to you, because we want to show some pretty things while we're up here, because I'm not very pretty. It just doesn't happen. I have a face for radio, but yet I come up here and do these video podcasts all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me. But so the main thing is that I want to bring up before we bring the art up is you're dealing in horror comics, but you're dealing not the horror like people, this generation nowadays and everything thinks it's got to be slasher, nothing to it, just a bunch of blood and gore. You deal with that psychological mess with your mind. I look at it going, where did you lose me on this thing? Have to reread it type scenario. How did you come up with dealing with the psychological way of doing these things?
Well, a lot of times it comes down to what actually scares me. Like what's some stuff to kind of spook me out or scare me. Because like the first issue, and not trying to call it out or anything. The first issue, like the first third of that is a true story. It's a date night I went on a girl with back in college to a movie theater. And so that first third of that is all true. And then it just takes like a what if it went this crazy, creepy, psychological horror route, basically. So it's stuff that is inspired by true events in my life, but also I want to scare myself a little bit.
And see, that's pretty messed up, because I've read through that thing several times on just the first issue. And of course, that's one big story in that one, whereas the issue 2 is more of the anthology. But in the first one, it's not a short story by any means. It's got a lot in there, a lot of A lot of information. Don't skim this information because then you will get lost. I'm telling you that right now. This is not a skimming book. But if you kind of go through it, of course, like he said, it goes with him going on a date based on real events. I don't know how real events we're talking about this. So we may delve into that here later. We never know. But it's dealing with a cinema. I've got to go ahead and point out right now, the fact that you went to the nth degree on the detail work on this really impressed me. It's not because, okay, like the storyline is always, if it's a good storyline, that's great and everything. But as long as you go to that extra mile to make sure every little detail is in place, whenever they walk into the cinema, sticking to the floor and, popcorn kernels all over the place and everything, it's a cinema. I mean, it's your dollar cinema type thing, but you also went to the degree of saying that they owed like $37 for the tickets. And I was like, ooh, they got a deal. That is awesome. I mean, how do you, whenever you're writing these things and you're coming up with the ideas, of course, now this is based on true events, so I know where that inspiration comes from, but how do you get in the mindset of just sitting down and writing to that much detail on something like this?
Well, when it's like specifically the detail on different stories that I do, it comes down to what are actual conversations I would have with a person, or what sounds like actual conversations you would have in those type of scenarios, like to the degree where the ticket price, like I looked up that theater or a theater near it around the time that I wrote it to see how much the ticket prices were. I factored in tax and all that stuff. And so that's how even the price amount got figured out and stuff, to where like, yeah, I want it to feel real. It's the tiniest details where it's like, as you're reading it, it's like, okay, that's interesting, but it helps make it feel more real for you, because
Exactly.
you're filling in Ben and Mia's shoes, this couple shoes, you're getting into it.
Now, I'm not going to get into major spoilers on this thing because y'all have to get in. Y'all have to get this. I'm telling you right now, this has to be in your possession as a book, as a digital, however you got to get this thing, get it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, just this right here, this particular page, and this is the only page I'm going to show you from issue 1. At least, Brandon's being nice enough to show you more pages over there on the campaign. So we're going to go ahead. I've got the links embedded in the feeds for you, making it very easy to get over there to it. But don't do that until we're done, because we're going to go over some more information. But just like this right here, they see this figure standing over there in a hoodie. We all know people who wear hoodies and stand around places, and just kind of, stand or whatever. I mean, I'm wearing a hoodie right now and just kind of, sitting here just off into the distance. But then again, it more or less just kind of disappears. Now, a lot of times you think, whatever, it's poor lighting, or I'm not paying attention, or my eyes are playing tricks or something like that. That's where the psychological starts kicking in. I cannot stress enough to everybody watching this how much this story twists and turns, and you cannot skim it. This is not one of those where you can be distracted with something else going on. It's a very cool story, and just whenever you think it's done, there's another twist. And a lot of times whenever people say, like, it's automatically, people are out there going, oh man, it's one of those that just never ends. It's a dream factor. It was all a dream. It was all this, whatever. Try to think of it however you want to, but whenever you read this thing, it's going to grab you. I am a very big critic on a lot of the comics because I've been behind the scenes, been able to read a bunch, see a bunch being done in there all. So whenever this came along, what I always do with my books whenever I'm reading them is I'll read it fast the first time. The second time I go through, I read it with more detail. The third time I go through and make sure, are the panels looking pretty good in there? Is the artwork, consistent? The lettering look good? Does the storyline stay consistent with everything that's going on? All this fun stuff to get into more detail. I don't even know how many times I read this thing. I'm telling you right now, I kept going back because I kept getting distracted in the story of itself. Because the more you go back and read it, the more you get out of it. It's like it has different levels to this thing. How do you come up with something that has that many levels and works?
It ultimately comes down to not entirely saying all my stories are ambiguous, but when you have a story that has different elements and makes you think one way or the other about how it's going along or how it's ending. I like writing stuff like that. I like writing all kinds of horror, but I like writing stuff like that because it's not just a one and done thing. Like you said, you read it multiple times and got more out of it each time. And that's awesome because stuff like that, able to get more stuff out of it, as well as when there is stuff like that. And I'm a small fry when it comes to making comics, but if someone else that read it, you're then able to have that discussion and discuss like what you thought was going on or what you thought was happening or whatever, rather than it being just a factual statement as to this is the story and we both got a lot out of it. And it is enjoyable, but then it's like that's where all the talking dies down. But that discourse that can happen from stuff like this.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned, you say that you're a small fry in doing all this and the small guy about doing comics and everything. How long have you been making these?
So I started writing screenplays and stuff like that. 2016 is when I started doing that. And then I started writing comics 2018, 2019, when I started working with actual artists, specifically the artists on issues 1 and 2. That was early 2019. So March or April of 2019 is when I was truly starting to make comics and still working along that path.
So you've had some experience in this to kind of see how things are working with it and how you're being accepted with the community out there. Are you seeing more like of course you've got the horror following, that's got to happen with this, but are you seeing other markets that are out there that are starting to show interest that normally wouldn't, that you're kind of surprised by?
Yeah, I've written, this is my second thing that I've published. My second comic series that I published. I'm currently also publishing and making a mini series called The Gallows Man, which is like Silver Age, Golden Age, satire parody of superheroes at that time, but not like crapping all over them. I'm not pulling a Garth Ennis. Like, it is fun and enjoying them. So yeah, as I've been working along this, like making Gallows Man and then making Dismay Avenue and stuff, I've gotten a lot out of it. Like as it's progressed, I've gotten a lot out of each different project, each different Kickstarter. And yeah, I have like people that enjoyed The Gallows Man. They've came over and want to read, hey, this guy does horror as well. Like, I want to check this out. And then some of them have read like issues 1 and 2. And like, there's a few people that are like, I really like The Gallows Man, but then I read issue 1 of Dismay Avenue, and now like that's my favorite of your stuff. I'm like, well, thank you.
And I can tell y'all right now, if you like what you've seen so far, then 2 is not going to disappoint you by any means. In fact, they kind of turn the volume up a little bit because there are, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 4 or 5 stories in there.
Yeah, 4 stories in like 60 pages is what all that encompasses.
And of course, different art, so it's like having different books all put together in there, but it's got that it has that Twilight Zone feel in every single one of them on there. There's a couple of them that I kind of looked at going, I would have never thought of putting a story like that in a book like this, but it worked. I mean, it worked because, again, you have to read these things. Now, I'm going to bust that myth yet once again. These books that we have, the covers are beautiful. You can look at them. They're gorgeous. They shine and everything. You open those things up, they actually have pages inside with more artwork and words and stuff. It's really cool. So I'm busting that myth for everybody, letting you know that if you have a bunch of these books with just the covers, there's actually stuff inside. I'm telling you, it's scary.
If you want to slab them, you can. Don't slab them, though, is what I'm saying. Actually read it and enjoy it. Or
better yet, buy 2 copies. That way you got one to slab, one to read. Get you a reader and get you a slabber. But now I will say that tonight we were supposed to have Dismay Comics on here with Brandon, and then we were supposed to have, I could not do this twice if I tried, guys, but Brandon from Avalon Comics. So we're going to have double the Brandons out here, which is going to be fun because then I'd have to keep control of who was who. But Avalon Comics was unable to make it, and I apologize for that. They messaged me, and there's illness in the family. Actually, everybody in that family is sick, and he lost his voice. So he is not going to be here tonight. We decided to go ahead and go through with the show because if you like what you've seen so far on this, you know me, I don't like to do the short shows and go, okay, here we go, and there's the opening and there's the outro and we're done. This is one of those 2 a.m. infomercial styles right here but wait, there's more, because not only issue 1, but issue 2. Now we've kind of gone over the little bit of what's going on with issue 1. I want to give everybody a taste. We're doing the same thing with issue 2, except now you've got 4 separate stories in here. This is going to get you. I can honestly tell you, if you like what you see so far in issue 1, or you have issue 1, you backed it, you've got it or whatever, issue 2 is going to get you. There's no way it can't. If you're a horror fan, issue 2. If you like Twilight Zone, issue 2. If you like comics with good story writing, issue 2. Good art, issue 2. I'm telling you, I could go down the line and put these check boxes on everything on there, but y'all need to go check this thing out once we're done talking about this. This is the standard cover, correct, for issue 2?
Yeah, this is the main cover, and there's variant covers for both of them.
Right. And the variant covers are gorgeous. And of course, I like because he's got it set up and he words it as you can get them on Kickstarter or you can get them at events, but that's it. You're not going to get them, online, other, areas, anything like that. It's going to happen this way or that way. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's cool because as collectors, I enjoy that we have that exclusivity, that we have available to us, that we can say, look what I got, and show it off to other people. And yeah, there's your opportunity to get your reader as standard and then your, slabber as the variant.
Yeah, because I like that specialness that's there, because maybe it's a bad business model by me, but I like doing it this way because it makes the Kickstarter feel more special. It feels like an event. Like you have like basically a month to get in on this thing, get in on the ground floor pretty much. And like you said, there's that specialness with it. Like, oh, I got this hidden gem, because I am a small fry when it comes to Kickstarter as a whole. And it's like, whoa, I got like this hidden gem basically. So yeah.
Well, your voice hasn't gotten up there quite enough yet, and we're trying to work on doing that with tonight's show, and then we're going to be doing some other stuff moving forward, I guarantee you, because this stuff needs to be shown out there. But let me show, that's the beautiful cover. Again, busting that myth. If you open it up, you get to see these pages like this. So this one here, I chose this one in particular. This is Destination is the name of this story, because for one thing, that has got a very Stranger Things-esque, creature that's back there. Not a Stranger Things creature. Don't get it, get it mistaken there. That is a definitive, different creature. But what I like about this is, as things are coming toward this little girl, and again, not going to be busting, and giving too much of the spoilers and everything, but she hits the chime deal, the triangle, and all of a sudden she's in a different, something else is going on very quickly. It's like just as soon as that sound goes off, she's somewhere else. So you may think that you're going to someplace better. You may be going someplace worse. It kind of bounces around quite a bit. How do you come up with, I know, other people were doing, and putting stories into this too and everything, but how does somebody come up with a storyline where you use an actual musical instrument, like a triangle is your weapon to get out of things?
Well, it's one of those things where like, because the basic premise is little girl goes to a thrift shop with her mom, and as she's wandering around, mom is kind of annoying, just like, hey, just go wander around, look around. Little girl finds a mystical musical triangle, and when she strikes it, she gets sent to these different places, whether you want to call them other dimensions or whatever you want to call them. And yeah, it was one of those things where I was in college at the time, and the idea just popped of like, I've seen in horror stories or horror movies before where like a musical instrument is used as like the big plot thing that causes stuff to happen. Maybe they time travel, or maybe it causes someone to die in the room, or whatever it may be. And usually it's a trumpet or a saxophone or something like that. But I never saw like a musical triangle. I was like, I want to go that route with it and see where I can go from there. And so it just kind of spun from there.
I mean, it's almost to the point where after reading the story, and again, I'm not giving the spoilers on this, but after reading this myself, I personally want to find one of those musical triangles and like hang behind me during the shows. I think it would be kind of cool. Just hit that thing every once in a while, just to, if you know, because you got to get on there and actually back it so you can kind of find out what's going on. I may change my background whenever that happens. You never know. Just have some fun with it.
Anytime you like change a segment, or as you're about to like log out, you just hit it, and now you're in an alternate dimension.
Exactly. That would be cool to be able to have something like that. And that's something that is super simple in the thought that's on there, but they take the simple things that are out there and put it into these stories, and they make you think without you knowing that you're having to think. It's odd. I cannot explain it correctly enough. But again, if you're skimming it, you're not going to get it. But if you go ahead and you're actually reading through and all, you're good with that. Now we have the first question out here that I knew was going to come up. I was waiting for him to say it. This is Tim Ingram from Lost Hope Entertainment wants to know who is the interior artist for Destination.
So for Destination, the interior artist is Federico Gillen. I found him through DeviantArt, and I wrote all the stories in both issues. But yeah, it's a different artist for each story. And the interior artist for Destination, Federico Gillen, amazing artist. He knocks out of the park. With the 4 stories in issue 2, that one is more modern and contemporary type art style. But there is a flavor of like, and this is like praising it, like the best a webtoon can look. It looks kind of like that with like really good lighting.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, it's almost like they took an animation clip is the way I saw it whenever I first saw it. It's almost like if Disney was doing true horror. And I'm probably going to get sued for that statement, but that's okay because they're not going to get much. But it looks really cool. And I know where he's going with this to ask about which artist that is. I'm going to tell you, Tim, hold on to your seat, buddy, because we're still going. There's more. We're going to go with the next one on the list that I want to go with. Let me see which one. I want raw horror. Well, let's bring this one up. This one, the level, the amount of variation that's in all of the different art that's in these 4 stories is awesome, because all 4 of them are so significantly different. And you're going to look at me and probably watching this, you're going to be like, that's not the same book. I'm telling you, these are all in the same book. So this is the next one that's in there, is raw horror. And I chose this picture here because, number one, the dark, sketchy design and everything, the very it's not definitive lines or anything. It's very I'm not looking for goth. I'm looking for another word on there, but it's got that dark feel to it.
Yeah,
but
it's like atmospheric, surreal kind of.
Yes, exactly. On top of that, check out that lettering. I cannot get over how well that works with this. It's like somebody just took on a chalkboard and just went, yeah, that's what they said. And that's what they said. And at first you look at it and you're like, okay, it looks okay. But then you start walking through it and you're like, okay, I feel like I'm a part of the story now. And it's really messed up if you are. But you're a part of it at the time, and it works for the lettering. How did you come up with the idea to work and to meld that together?
So it was one of those things where like so for those that have been watching this far through, Jade Sky is the artist on this one, and she did the art for that issue 1 story Program, that movie theater one. She did the art for that as well. But this was the first story I got her to do. This was actually the first comic in general that I was working with an artist on, was this 8-page story. And yeah, it was one of those things where I knew what I wanted this comic to kind of look like. I wanted that painterly, atmospheric, surreal vibe going. And I found Jade through DeviantArt, and I saw some of her samples. I hired her to do a couple concept pages. She sent those. I was like, holy crap, yes, if you want to do the whole 8-page book, I'm wanting to hire you. And so yeah, I think this was actually the first page I got back, and I got it through steps. Like it started out as black and white, like black and white painting. And then when I saw the black and white painting, I was like, holy crap, like this looks amazing. And then the next time after I approved that, the next time I see like these darker colors, like these yellows, these browns, these blues, I'm like, holy crap, this is like beyond what I was expecting. Like this is so amazing. And yeah, I told her I didn't want like the typical lettering. If she could do kind of this like looks like writing, like you said, almost like chalkboard like, because I think it would fit better than typical bubble lettering. Even if the the font was creepy or different or whatever, it still wouldn't really feel the same, wouldn't fit right. And she knocked it out of the park. She sent like 10 different samples, and we narrowed it down to that one. And then stuff that she did that like I didn't even think about was like in that page specifically, there's in the background. Like that's the thing with some of these is you might have to look at the art or look at the background. There's little stuff here and there. With that page, in that bottom left corner, there's a painting. There's like the pictures, and they're like looking at each other. Then the next panel, you see those two people in the picture are looking at you, like different creepy stuff like that. Like sometimes I had input on it, but for that example, that was Jade right there. I was like, holy crap, I love that.
That is awesome. And again, it's that detail. I mean, the way that it was going and the flow that it had already was creepy enough. The style and the story was picking it up. And then all of a sudden you throw in detail like that. And it's like, okay, did I just, and of course your mind's eye goes, you didn't see that. And you go to the next page and then you go, wait a minute. And you go back and you look at it going, was that looking at me before or not? And then your mind starts going, okay, is this thing possessed? Do I need to call an old priest and a young priest? Yeah, I mean, you have to go through your own example of what you go through whenever you read this, but I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out on it. And again, that's only halfway through the book, and we're still not telling spoilers on this one. We're going to go to the next one, which is Tolls the Bells, because I like this one because this is more of the anime, the Bernie Wrightson. I mean, it's kind of a mixture of all this different stuff that's in there. It is powerful as all get out on the way that it is, the art that is done on here. And yeah, it is awesome the way it's done. And again, we're using a bell instead of, the triangle this time to go ahead and kind of make things happen. But seeing something like this in front of you, that would not mess with somebody's mind, because I'm telling you right now, that messes with everybody's mind on that.
Oh yeah.
Tim might be able to look at this thing and be like, it's a Thursday, but whatever.
Yeah, this is one of, like, I love all the pages from this. That's the thing with DeviantArt is, like, I don't know if I could find artists on DeviantArt anymore. It was at that time where I didn't know about Facebook. I didn't know about Instagram for finding artists. It was just DeviantArt. So I scoured dozens, if not 100+ hours to find these specific artists for issues 1 and 2.
Right.
Would I scour again? Probably not, because I have resources like Facebook and Instagram. Because Facebook, there's writers looking for artists, artists looking for writers, and it makes things a lot simpler. But I've also built these relationships with these artists. So
exactly. And again, he's saying that is sick art. I knew you were going to love this, dude. I knew it. That's why I chose this particular page, because I was like, oh, he's going to see this one.
Yeah, and you were right about the whole manga inspiration, because this one very heavily horror manga inspired. There's a mangaka named Junji Ito, and this is the artwork that Gaetano Matriglio does on this. Very heavily inspired by that. The story, if anyone's read any Junji Ito stories before, very Junji Ito writing inspired.
And I can definitely see, now that you're mentioning that, I can definitely see that after reading it and going through it as well. It's got that. Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm right. It's right here on the tip of the tongue, and I'm not going to do it because I want everyone to be out there and enjoy it themselves too. But this one had that, again, like I said, it even had that Bernie Wrightson feel on top of anime, which was awesome, because it's almost like I was back reading, the 70s, 80s comics that he was really heavily influencing at that time, but with the manga that we have today. So it's really cool to actually see that meld on there. And again, this is only one page. This is nothing compared to the entire thing when you see it all completed on there. And again, short story for the most part. I actually wanted more of this and more of the story and more of the artwork and everything. And I'm sure we'll see more of this in the future in some way, somehow. But I'm telling y'all right now, this thing actually had me, again, I was going through my normal, thing of trying to read it once, read it twice, 3 times type thing. I've probably gone through these things almost a dozen times reading these, just because you do get a feel for it, and then you go back and read it again, and there's a different emotion attached, and there's a different emotion. And it's awesome that, number one, an emotion gets attached, for one, but to be able to change that just by reading it again, now that you know something different. And now I'll reread it again after we're done and get know who it's actually influenced by on manga and be like, well, what do you know? There's another emotion. So that is really cool how you come up with something like that to do that, but also to be able to have this range of things in your head that you're actually going, I want to see this on paper. That looks like what I wanted it to do, or it looks even better than I thought was in my brain. How do you have, for lack of better terms, how do you have this much of a horror circus going on up inside the head up there, and you actually able to split it up? I mean, to me, you would actually start seeing similarities, not just in the art, but in the actual story. And I found none, and I'm still finding none. How do you do that? How do you split those up?
It's one of those things where when it comes to any film genre, because I'll say a lot of influence comes from film and then comics when it comes to horror. I love horror movies. Like, I basically grew up on horror movies, watched some horror movies at a really young age at someone's house that parents didn't know about, that sort of stuff. That's how we grow up, basically. Yeah, like all of the different horror movies I read, all the different horror literature that I read, I mean, like, super influential when it comes to like creepy art is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like,
Yes.
those little books that were in elementary school libraries.
Yep.
And the stories were like, okay, they were a little bit scary. The artwork was terrifying though. Like,
Yeah.
that inked painted art and stuff, like, horrifying for like a 7-year-old to just like flip and see that sort of stuff. But that stuff is very influential. Yeah, it's one of those things where I just love horror. And it's one of those things where I love writing horror. I love writing all genres, like superhero stuff, war dramas, horror stuff, all different stuff, westerns, romances, all that. But the thing that comes easiest to me is writing horror, like any type of horror, because I could be writing something else. Like, recently I was writing a western. I was getting a little bit frustrated. I hit like a roadblock, and basically my way of like getting out of the roadblock is like, okay, let me go over to my comfort space. Horror. I'm going to write horror because I can just, it goes naturally for me, a lot easier than other genres do.
And you could definitely see that. And again, the range is all in there. And before we go on to the last story, I want to let everybody know this is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but this is not an all ages comic, correct? This is actually more of a mature audience's comic.
Yeah. I recommend mature audience. If you want to get it for your teenager or kid, you get it, look through it, and you decide. Because ultimately, I think parents are the better decision maker when it comes to whether the kid should look at it or not. But you have to make that choice. You can't be lazy about it.
And the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to show a page from the last story that I'm going to talk about on here, which is Acolyte. Now, we've already seen amazing darker, artwork on there in Dark Story. We've seen the black and white Bernie Wrightson, manga style on there. We've seen, in Destination, the style where it looks like you took something directly out of animation and gave it, life on a page. It's so gorgeous on there with that, and still so dark. So now we're going to look at the last one on here, and y'all are going to flip on this one. I'm sorry. Get ready for this, because yes, this is part of the book. And this is probably the most disturbing story I read in this. And I'm saying that right now. So here is Acolyte. And I know everybody's kind of looking at me going, it's a freaking cartoon. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I had no idea this one was going to hit me. So I read it again and tried to figure out where it lost me. I read it again. I still haven't figured out. I still have not figured out where this thing derails and has me going, what the hell just happened? Kudos on doing that and taking this style of artwork. I mean, that's basically like the closest thing I could think of is it's like Jetsons or something like that is what I automatically think of is the style that's on there. It is not Jetsons. I'm throwing
that's the thing is when I wrote the story, when I started writing the story, I already had the art style that I had in mind. Before looking for an artist, the art style I had in mind when writing the story was Dr. Seuss-esque art style. So that kind of Dr. Seuss type art style, maybe a little bit Archie comics and stuff, and wrote the story. Then eventually found Helen Bolton, who did the art for it. And yeah, she pumped it out perfectly. 15, 16 page story. Yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, it starting out the first 2 or 3 pages, it even seems like some weird Dr. Seuss story, because the main character's name is Mr. Hinklehorn. He has a dog named Lou, like all this stuff. He's just starting his day, and then like, yeah, just crap is hitting him throughout the day, and he's just responding like with a big smile and just like, oh, thank you, sir, or have a nice day.
And I will say that first time reading this, I of course I went through it and everything. I went through the second time reading it, and I was trying to break it down, and I was like, wait a minute. So we're going for, Michael Douglas and Falling Down as kind of that feel that I'm getting, movie wise on what's happening to the main character, because he does get a lot of crap thrown at him, and he just smiles and goes, have a great day. Oh, thank you for the gift, that kind of thing. Well, then Michael Keaton's no longer just Michael Keaton. If he would have found a bag of guns, he would have probably been, a lot less disturbing than what happened toward the end of this. I'm telling you right now, people, I'm not going to spoil it. Nobody's going to spoil this thing. This thing is disturbing as all get out, and not in a way that makes you feel all creepy crawly and you got to go, wash your eyes out with bleach. No, this is where you got to go into your brain going, what just happened? I cannot stress enough. How do you come up with taking a character that's so pure and innocent looking and then just twisting not only them, but twisting the ending and twisting the ending? And again, I'm not spoiling. That's enough to say right there to get everybody going, what do you mean twisting the ending and twisting the ending? You gotta read it, trust me. But how do you come up with that? How do you twist it that much?
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I guess that's where some of the Twilight Zone influence comes from, because not every episode of the Twilight Zone has a twist, but I'd say probably half of them do have a twist. They were the M. Night Shyamalan before M. Night Shyamalan, basically. And so that's kind of where that type of influence comes from, of that twist, but also seeing the steps along the way towards that twist without it just feeling like, oh, like that came out of nowhere, or different stuff like that. I really enjoy that type of stuff. And yeah, with the art style, when making issue 2, you had already mentioned I wanted each art style to feel very different from each other, like not even be remotely close, because it adds that variety, as well as you can see different ways of horror. Like with this, I mean, it's looks like a kid's Dr. Seuss book, but spirals pretty much.
Yeah, spirals a lot. We're holding back as best we can over here. It is a
I will say though, like, this isn't spoiling anything. I didn't go the obvious route, people. He's not a serial killer.
Yeah,
I didn't go that obvious route.
Yeah, that's no. Yeah, threw me off on that one too. It did. I mean, it's like I said, it seemed like Michael Douglas from Falling Down, and then I was like, okay, no, he's on the darker side of things, and then this and that and the other, and it just, I'm telling you, it's got so many layers to this and so many levels to it that you can't figure out exactly where it is, and you'll finish it off every time going, oh, wait a minute, no, that's not, I couldn't have been back here, and you'll go back a few pages. I'm telling you right now, if you don't do that, message me and let me know, but definitely message me and let me know if you are doing that, because I want to know that I'm not the only one who went through it like that. But you've got the campaign over there. It's doing, pretty well over there. As of right now, you've got 3 days to go. You are fully funded. That happened pretty quick over there with what you were doing. We want to make sure we get you enough funding over there so you can keep making these great things that are over there. You've got amazing, artwork, writing, everything is in here. The full package is in this thing. It's pretty cool, the timing that you have this thing out. I'm going to throw that out there right now, because again, there's a whole holiday that comes in before Christmas. So even whenever Halloween's over, we still have a little bit of time on there, which is great. So you're able to pull this thing out, and people, can enjoy horror still, because there are people out here me included, who actually enjoy horror throughout the entire year. And this is definitely something you can get into no matter what time of the year it is. And I really want to show this right now because this is one of the coolest things on here. And yes, I'm fangirling a little bit over this one, because if you really want to show your horror spirit on what's going on and really be able to show off, how much you're enjoying this, this is what you need to go after right here. The t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
That right there. Now, if you're looking at it just like, oh, that is some sick art and it's really cool looking, the black and white design. Again, if you read what's going on in here and you see where this is from, then you really get a feel for, ooh, I'm a part of this now.
Oh, yeah.
This thing has a lot more feel than just a 3D effect. It has almost like a 4D effect once you read it. So what made you decide to go with this image above everything else you've got to go with the t-shirt? I mean, I love that you did, but what made you choose it?
There's multiple things. I'll say the basic one is like, it looks so cool. Like the second I saw it on a t-shirt and got it to work on a t-shirt, I was like, crap, I want one. And then my sister saw the design and she was like, well, I want one. I was like, okay, fine, I'll get you one as well. And then I was like, well, I guess other people will want one as well. So that's how I decided to include it. But then, yeah, there was that other element of like, this kind of has that 4-dimensional aspect of, this kind of works with reading the comic.
Yes.
So it's kind of that as well. And I was like, okay, this has to be a t-shirt. This has to be a tier. This has to be an add-on that people can get. So that's kind of how that came about.
And I will give y'all this much. The story this comes from is Tolls the Bells. That's it. That's as far as it goes. That's as much as you get. So that one that was the Bernie Wrightson anime, mixture type thing, there you go. And if you think, again, just really cool artwork, wait till you actually read this thing and then find out where that's coming from. Ooh, yeah, you're going to wear that thing with pride. So you got some really cool things going on with this. You got some great tiers that are set up on here and all. This is how many campaigns have you had so far on this?
This is my 4th one. It's the first one for Dismay Avenue.
Okay. So first one for Dismay Avenue, but you also have Gallows Man was the other one you were talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Now with Gallows Man, you've done issues 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a 4-issue miniseries.
Okay. And yeah, I knew it. Oh, I want one. You and me both, buddy. We're both right there. We're going to have to see about getting this so we can wear it to the con next year. But with Gallows Man, you've got issues 1 and 2 out there. I believe I got issue 1. I'm trying to think of if I did. I know that I have, because if it's the one I think it is, and I'm seeing the picture now, so I know it is. It's very Batman-esque, but not.
Oh yeah. Well, the best way I describe it is take the 1960s Adam West Batman show, the fun campiness of that, and then throw in some Quentin Tarantino movie violence.
Yes.
And that's basically the Gallows Man. And it's set in the 1940s, and he fights a Nazi cult.
Yeah, it's it's twisted, kind of like the rest of the stuff is out there, but twisted if you got a twisted sense of humor, like most of my fans, my followers and everybody does on this show, y'all be just fine. It'll be right in your element.
And the Gallows Man is rated M as well, but the only reason Gallows Man is rated M, there's no nudity, there's no language, like not a single cuss word, there's no smoking or drinking. Literally, the only reason it's rated M is like the kind of over-the-top, cartoonish violence and blood and stuff like that.
Which, I mean, nowadays, does that really?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the reason I put M for mature. Is mature doesn't entirely mean they have to be 18. Right. I think because some kids, like, I could see one 12-year-old reading Gallows Man and enjoying it and liking it, but I could also see another 12-year-old like it's setting them off or something.
Exactly. And I mean, it all, like you said, it doesn't matter on the age, because I'm pushing almost 50 years old, and am I actually mature? It depends on your point of view on things. I don't know. Lost Hope Entertainment says, nah, my con gear will be custom stuff but this shirt for podcast would be sick. Ooh,
Nice.
ooh, hang on a sec. I like that idea. I like where you're going with that one. Um, Now, one thing I wanted to bring up is that you are at 72 backers as of right now. And the reason I want to bring that up, because I wasn't going to say anything first, but then I was scrolling through and I found a 75 backer giveaway that's on here. Now, is this as in this is going to be given to one of the backers or number 75, or how are you doing this?
One of the backers will get that specific thing. And yeah, it's two different things. There's a 25 backer giveaway, a 50 backer giveaway. We already hit those. And once the Kickstarter ends, I'll put in the whole random spin wheel thing and see who gets those. But the 75 one is that sticker and bookmark set, but I can actually pull it here. There's also what Phil is leading to, a big original art giveaway pertaining to the Gallows Man.
Yes.
I'll get the page right here.
Well, you actually have the, oh, sweet. Here we go. Full screen.
That right there. So at 75 backers, so we're just 3 backers away. One backer will get all this. It's a Booker and stickmark. Can't even say bookmark and sticker set. I was switching the word somehow. And the stickers are high quality. It's die cut. It's not the cheap stuff. So you'll get that, and you'll get this original page, original pencil and ink of basically Newsboy, who is the Robin equivalent in Gallows Man, chasing down a mobster with a battle axe and going to ensue Newsboy's brand of justice, which when you read the Gallows Man, you basically know what that is.
Nice.
So we're just 3 backers away from one backer getting that.
So very close on that one to someone being, very lucky on that. And man, if you're giving away the custom stuff over there, like Bookers and stick marks, I want to see exactly what those are. That sounds cool to me.
It's brand new. I'm trademarking it.
I mean, I would love to be able to open a package and be like, here's your Booker and stick mark. I'd be like, yes, I don't have those. See, you're missing an opportunity right there. That needs to be on your next campaign automatically.
Yes.
It would be something that no one else would have. But I mean, you've got great stuff on here, and I love the way the campaign is set up. It's very simple, very easy to go through on here. Stretch goal has already been made on number 1, number 2, and number 3. If you had a number 4, it's possible still to hit that. I mean, with 3 days to go on there, you've got that 2-day emails.
I'll probably announce it either tonight or tomorrow morning, but there is a 4th one. It's at $3,000, and it'll be a original sketch card done by Helen Bolton, who did that Acolyte story, the Dr. Seuss type one. So
Nice.
Original art from her. Every physical backer will get that if we hit 3,000.
Very nice. Cool. Now, being that this is your 4th Kickstarter, like you said, first one under the Dismay one, but what's one main thing that you've learned positively about this that you're implementing in your future campaigns?
From this specific campaign?
Yes.
A major thing is really reaching out to as many people as possible. With this one, it's like, yeah, the horror crowd, I think, will really like this. But there's also some people that I realized didn't like horror, but I reached out to them and they read both issues and were like, I usually don't like horror. I don't like horror at all, but I really dug this. Or they at least dug one of the issues, basically. I was like, hey, that's better than what your previous track record was. You didn't like horror, but you said you like these horror books. So I'm okay with that.
And that's very cool with that, because it's got a bigger market following than just horror. I mean, even with, I hate saying it, but I mean, some people are twisted. Not me so much. I'm more of I'm a demon. Never mind. I am. But comedy. I mean, there's a comedy aspect to it, and sarcasm. Oh my gosh, the sarcasm is phenomenal in some of these stories, and the way that certain people react to things in issue 1. I think I danced around that one pretty well, because you think you get frustrated with customer service anywhere else. Wait till you read issue 1 and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm telling you, it will send up your frustration flare in a heartbeat, but in a good way, of course. I mean, you still want to keep reading it and keep following through, but that's cool that you have the different open markets, that are out there to be able to spread out with this. And you've got, of course, Dismay, and you've got Gallows Man. Is there anything else on your plate that's coming up in the near future? Can you say anything about 2023? That's something big maybe coming up that you got coming on the back burner?
With 2023, I will say Gallows Man issue 3, like the third issue of that, will come out first half of 2023, likely May, most likely May, but could come out earlier. Those are double size issues. Like issue 1 is like 48 pages. Issue 2 is like the same. So issue 3 will come out around that time. Dismay Avenue number 3, I hope to have, I say hope, it'll be out by September or October of 2023. Maybe earlier, but likely September, October of 2023. But there's also a horror one-shot that I have been working on. It's not going to be Dismay Avenue because it doesn't really fit with Dismay Avenue, because it's that one I can't sell digitally. It has to be read physically. So I'm still working on that. It's going to be interesting. I hope to have that one. There won't be pop-up elements, but a big thing will be bringing that horror into your world, like around you, basically. So I'm working on that. I hope to have it out in 2023, likely will. And then there's some other stuff, like I'm working on a 12-issue war drama / horror. And I'm really liking the way it has been going. The first 2, like I have the outline completely done, and the first 2 issues are completely scripted out. So maybe I'll have issue 1 out by the end of 2023, if not 2024. And then I'm always working on other comics and projects and stuff. So expect more Gallows Man, expect more Dismay Avenue, and also expect other stuff in the next couple of years.
That is awesome. And I appreciate you being on here and taking the time being on here with me tonight and going over this and talking some horror, because, even though Halloween's over with, this has got me all hyped up yet again, just like it's right around the corner. And that's the way it should be, for those people that like horror. This gives you an opportunity to enjoy it throughout the entire year. And it's not just on one setting. Like, you don't have to read this just at Halloween or just at certain time. You can read it anytime you want to. And it's just as, psychologically messing with your mind as any other time. So why don't you go ahead? I'm going to give you full screen on this one. I'm going to let you go ahead and let everyone know why they need to go to that little link that's been going back and forth across there for the past, 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. That is also embedded into the feeds. I'm letting everybody know right now, so you can click over there and find out what he has to say on this one, and then you make the decision, go over there, click on it, and find out what you want to go ahead and get on board with. So, Brandon, take it over. You got full screen.
All right. Sounds good. So I hope you guys do check out issues 1 and 2 of Dismay Avenue. I do want to mention both issues are completely done. Like, art is done, lettering is done, editing is done. All that I need to do, send it off to the printer. And I've already worked with this printer before, so I know they're a reliable printer. And I have that track record as well, because I've made Gallows Man. So you can expect these books to be out no later than February. Like you'll get it if you back it. If you back it, you'll probably get it into December, January, but no later than February. That's if like stuff with UPS or post office or whatever, they mess something up, but hasn't happened yet. But reason I recommend getting these books, there's so much variety with it. With both issues 1 and 2, over 100 pages of comics, and we went through all the different stories and the artwork and stuff. There's something there for everyone, I think. I think you'll like all the stories, but at the very least, there's going to be a couple stories that really you gravitate towards. So I definitely recommend getting these comics, because when it comes to the tiers on the Kickstarter, it's fairly cheap when it comes to Kickstarters. It ranges from $1 to $60. So there's a tier for any budget. At $5, you can get issue 1 digitally. That's over 40 pages of comics. For $9, you can get both issues 1 and 2 digitally, over 100 pages of comics. And physical copies start at $11. And then there's like great value bundles to where you get huge bang for your bucks as it goes up. And that t-shirt is at $18. If you, for some reason, don't like comics at all, there's a tier specifically for the t-shirt to where you can just get the t-shirt. I do recommend getting the comics as well. So if you don't like comics, you can get the t-shirt by itself. But if you do like comics and you want to get these comics, you can select the tier that you want, like the physical tier that you want. And then in the add-on section, after you click your tier, at the bottom of that add-on section is the t-shirt. You can add that t-shirt to that order that you have. And I also want to mention, these comics are only available on these Kickstarters. It's the only place you can get them. They're not anywhere else online. I don't have an online store because I like these Kickstarters to feel special. And so I highly recommend getting it because of that, because you're not going to be able to get it anywhere. And I also want to mention, if you were interested by what we were talking about with Gallows Man, you're not able to get that anywhere else online. But in this Kickstarter, on the add-on section, there are issues 1 and 2 of Gallows Man, including the variant covers, and all of that signed. So if you want to get your creepy, scary books, and then to alleviate that tension and that scariness, you then also have your superhero books that can give you a fun time and alleviate that scariness that you just experienced.
That is awesome. I mean, that gives you so much variety in there to go through, and there's something for everyone. I mean, there really is.
Oh yeah.
Brandon, I certainly appreciate you being here. I've had a great time having you on the show and being able to talk to you and pick your brain about everything. And I look forward to definitely getting you back on for another show as you have other projects coming up, and probably get you on for a couple of panels as well, because I got some things coming up in the wind myself.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I'm going to go ahead and drop you backstage right now, though. I certainly appreciate you being here. And if you want to hang out, I'll do my closing. I'll be with you momentarily.
Sounds good.
All right. So we had a great time on here. We had Brandon from Dismay Comics. We got to talk about horror comics, because who doesn't love horror comics? And these are the psychological ones that really, really, really mess with your head. I'm telling you, Acolyte. Just telling you, that's the one. That's the one that'll mess with you more than anything else. Brandon's already said I can't send him a therapy bill, but it's there. So I'm just letting you know. Now, I always have a lot of fun. I always kind of, goof around and everything. But I'll also have a closing statement. Tonight's not going to be different. Always based on my guess, something they've said or something that's gone around there, usually based on one word. And it's the one word that we use kind of close to the end of it as well: variety. With variety, we're actually given a different perspective and different areas to look at. So with variety, he's actually given us, one element of horror, another element of horror, different things that are out there, so that he's able to reach out to different market viewerships that are out there. With variety, he can actually get more people with more perspectives to check out what's going on. And he might even get some that look on there saying, I love this story, but now I'm actually kind of interested in this one because I see that you're doing this one as well, and so on and so forth. You get that variety, gets the wheels turning. So keep that in mind whenever you're working on whatever it is you're working on. Sometimes going with the blinders on and going in one particular direction the entire way works for some people. Don't get me wrong. Other people, use some variety in there, see what you can come up with. You never know. So appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate y'all enjoying Hell of a Show on Monday night as well. And looking forward to the next one very much. I believe we are off next week because of it being Thanksgiving week. I think we're off. I'm not 100% sure. My fiance handles all the scheduling, so she hasn't yelled at me yet or thrown anything past the green screen, so I'm okay so far. But if I have something come up, I will let you know. But if not, we'll be back in 2 weeks. But again, thank you very much for being here. Please remember to like, subscribe, so you don't miss out on the content here. And go ahead and share this out. More shares we have out there, more people view it, more people get interested in what's going on, and we can just do our part in here. So that being said, I always got to say at the end of every show, so keep it indie, y'all.
I'm watch and watch them run.